Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Unique Items. I know I'm on a throwing item kick lately, but quite honestly, it's a good time for it since the throwing tree has been revised pretty heavily. Today we're going to be looking at a pretty powerful unique item known as Warshrike. Warshrike is a winged knife. It is an elite item, so it is already fully upgraded. And Warshrike has some pretty decent effects on it, and as we go over it, I think you will come to realize that it's a pretty sweet item all around. It has 80 to 136 throw damage. It also has 94 to 122 one-handed damage. When it is used as a throwing item, it will be under the throwing mastery, and when it is used as a one-handed sort of melee weapon, it will be under blade mastery now, because blade mastery now covers daggers, so keep that in mind. They won't stack though, so you can't have both and get both effects. It's when you're using it as a throwing item, it's under throwing, and when you're using it as a blade, it's under blade mastery. It does have a dexterity requirement of 142, which is a little high, a strength requirement of 45, which is very low, and a level requirement of 75, which is particularly high. So this is more of an endgame item in general. It is a very fast attack speed item because, of course, it is a dagger already, and it also has a very nice 30% increased attack speed as well. So it's going to be extremely fast as far as throwing this and ending up getting a whole bunch of them out. It's also important to note that because of its relatively small size, it does have kind of a difficult presence to be seen. I have been told by quite a few people that when you throw Warshrikes, it's a little bit difficult to see them on the battlefield, especially like in PvP and stuff like that. When someone is fighting, you really kind of have to pay attention to what you're doing. And in the old version of the game, if I remember correctly, they were a little bit even harder to see, especially from certain angles. As you can see on certain angles, they're actually pretty difficult to see, and they're extremely fast items just in general. You can really knock out a lot of the quantity relatively quickly. But keep in mind that they've changed Throwing Mastery now, so that Throwing Mastery has a chance not to consume the quantity. It also has a chance on crit, or rather when you crit, to replenish quantity. So you can theoretically throw Warstrikes forever if you're actually throwing them at targets, which is pretty darn cool. They've also added a chance to pierce on the skill of 47% at level 23. It obviously scales with level, and that will combine with the pierce on the Warshrike knife, which is a 50% pierce, by the way. So with the Warshrike combined with the 47% on the throwing mastery, you're looking at 97% pierce, which means you're going to have a really nice time with these items going through and hitting multiple targets. We also have a 250% enhanced damage on these, which does vary from 200 to 250%, so a pretty large variable there of 50%, which means you can find these in relatively poor condition. We also have a 50% deadly strike, which means we're going to have a pretty massive amount of bonus damage. Deadly strike is basically the chance to deal double damage, and it does in fact stack with the critical strike that comes from Throwing Mastery, and we have a 30% chance of that. Now, it doesn't just stack right on top of each other. You don't get 50% plus 30 equals, 50, 60, 70, 80. Instead, how it works is critical strike will roll first, and then deadly strike will roll second, and as long as one succeeds, you will get double damage. There's no quad damage, but it's still very nice to have both. We also have Replenishes Quantity on this of 1 in 3 seconds, which means that it will regenerate as well. And if you've noticed, the maximum stack size on Warshrike used to be 200, and now it is 300 because they have increased the stack size on all throwing items in 2.4, which, by the way, comes out on April 14th. Actually, it might be past that by the time this video comes out. We also have Warshrike Winged Knife Ethereal version, which is 119 throwing damage to 203, 140 one-handed damage to 182, and it has a dexterity requirement of 132 with 35 strength. And because of the Replenishes Quantity effect on this, it probably will never run out, especially when combined with the throwing mastery. And if we take this over somewhere and we play around with it, let's go to Glacial's Trail. Why not? Doesn't really matter where we go, and we'll chuck some knives. And as you can see, Very nice damage on these. There's also a Nova effect, which for some reason I completely missed. It has a 25% chance to cast level 9 Nova on striking. Now, Nova is not exactly known for its high damage, but it is known for its AoE damage. At level 9, we're looking at a 50 to 85 damage Nova effect, and this 50 to 85 damage is, of course, at everything nearby, which means that we get a relatively nice procking damage of, just constant lightning hits. And you'll see the Novas go off all the time, and they'll constantly be hitting multiple targets. I mean, if you think about it, even if it's just 50 damage per Nova, it's still 50 damage per Nova per monster. So, if it hits 10 monsters, that's 500 damage, and it can kind of help to soften up targets, as well as provide maybe a couple, I don't know, faster hit recovery stuns or little light staggers or things like that. Not exactly a stun, but a small freeze in their maybe attack chain or something along those lines. Now, if you were a character like a sorceress, and you wanted to actually use these just for the fun of it, you could synergize the Nova with the Synergies, and you could have a little fun with stuff like that. You could just simply build the Synergies for Nova, and you could throw these, and the Novas would proc all the time. 25% chance to proc, it's going to proc literally like all the time. Especially if you're a barbarian chucking these with double throw. It's not going to take you very long to get 10, 20, 30 Novas within a very short period of time. Considering you're throwing 2 daggers a pop, each dagger has a 25% chance, and they can pierce multiple times, especially with a 50% piercing attack plus the throwing mastery is 47. So they can pierce through multiple times, and every time they pierce, they can hit multiple lightning novas, which means that if you're fighting a relatively large group of monsters, there's every chance that you could have 10 or 15 novas going off rapidly in quick succession and dishing out a rather large amount of lightning damage, believe it or not, when it's all said and done. It's not going to be a lot on a single hit, but if you throw 1 dagger through 10 monsters and it procs on 5 of those, that's 5 times 50 to 85, and of course the second one could also proc because you're going to double throw on those same monsters, and you could end up with 10 procs of 50 to 80, which is 10 procs of 50 to 80 is already about 700 damage, but then times 10 monsters that are all nearby, you've got what is that, 700 times 10, so you're looking at about 7,000 cumulative damage across all targets, and it starts to add up relatively quickly. Now, Warshrike is definitely one of those interesting ones that you probably want to get your hands on if you wanted to be a throwing barbarian. There are a lot of very fun throwing items, and I've been going over quite a few of them recently, so I hope you've been paying attention. I've already done Gimmer Shred and Lacerator and a bunch of other really cool items from the throwing tree. But let's go over where specifically you could probably try and find yourself a Warshrike, shall we? So let's go over to Silo's Pen, and Silo's Pen is a very interesting place where you can look up drop chances. This is a relatively high-level item at level 75, so we're going to assume 300% Magic Find at least, and we're going to look at our probabilities. So as you can see here, Bale in Hell difficulty, 1 in 1,129. Diablo in Hell difficulty, 1 in 1,294, and Mephisto in Hell, 1 in 8,520. So not a lot of really good chances here. I mean, you're pretty much looking at Diablo is probably your best bet, because Bale is a little difficult to farm. And super uniques, not a lot of really good choices here. Neelathak in Hell, if you're searching for keys anyway, that could be a good choice. If you're interested in learning how to get to Neelathak easily every single time, I have a video up on my channel that goes over exactly how to find Neelathak with 100% accuracy every single time, very fast. I go over the method as best I can, and I explain it in a way that I'm hoping that most people will understand. And once you get it down, to be honest with you, you'll probably never have an issue finding Neelathak again. As for the rest of these guys, 1 in 13,000 is pretty crappy chances, so that's like the best one. But Doc Farron does have a decent chance. Pindleskin, Thresh Socket, Eldritch the Rectifier, Shank the Overseer. You could easily farm Hephaesto, Shank, Eldritch, Thresh Socket, Pindle, Doc Farron, those are all really relatively easy to farm and pretty much all in the same zone, except for Hephaestus. But very easy to do that quick rotation, and then you can make a new game, do the quick rotation, make a new game. The easiest way to do that would be to kill Pindle, walk outside of town, teleport to the middle of the siege zone. There's Doc Farron. Teleport to the end of the siege zone. There's Shank. Kill him. Teleport up a little bit and kill Eldritch, and then teleport to the end of Eldritch's zone, and Thresh Socket is sitting on the stairs at the end of Eldritch's zone. Very, very easy. And then, of course, you would go to River of Flame and find Hephaestus real quick, who's not that hard to find, and kill him. And he also has a pretty decent chance as well. That's actually a pretty solid combo for farming in Hell difficulty. And if you're looking for a Warshrike, you're looking for, you're probably going to have to kill a bunch of monsters before you find it. But I do think, as far as bosses is concerned, Diablo seems like a really good choice there. At 1 in 1,294, that's actually not bad. And Diablo is not that hard to farm, and he also has pretty good EXP as well. So good luck with that. As always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when we were talking about the Warshrike winged knife. And as always, keep watching.